Noam Chomsky and Vijay Prashad, U.S. must stop undermining negotiations with Russia to end Ukraine war. What undermining how? Zelensky is the one who's in charge of negotiating with Russia from Ukraine, and he's like, yeah, no, we're taking every fucking square inch of Ukrainian territory back. The U.S. is not impeding this process. Zelensky does not want... What Chomsky really means, of course, is like, the United States must stop allowing Ukraine the ability to fight back against Russia. You know, like the U.S. must stop undermining negotiations by giving Ukraine the power to defend itself. That's the actual position. Democracy Now, yeah.
Podcasts. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Russia's launch of Chomsky, New York.
To Putin, discussions up to a few days before the invasion. President Macron was indeed trying very hard to avoid the invasion by offering various options for a peaceful settlement. Putin, we have the actual transcript of this, no guesswork. Putin was dismissive at the very end, a couple of days before the invasion. He just dismissed it with contempt, said sorry.
That is true. Putin didn't want peace. If he wanted peace, he wouldn't have started the war for no reason. That, yes, it's fairly straightforward. Like, yeah, the guy who invaded for no reason was not deterred from invading.
Sorry, I've got to go ice skating. Something like that. So the U.S. is not alone, but its role has been to act to make negotiations harder to achieve, unlikely. That's as recently as late April, as far as we know. Well, one thing the United States can do is stop acting like that. Drop the position, the official position, that the war must go on to weaken Russia severely, meaning...
Wait, how is that? Wait, is the official position of the United States that the war must go on to weaken Russia? I thought the official position of the United States was that we were just going to supply aid to Ukraine as long as Russia was in their territory. I don't think the U.S. has come out and said, our position is war forever, like the good old days after 9/11. You know, I'm pretty sure the U.S. is just like, yeah, an ally's getting invaded, so we're just going to give them, like, big guns and stuff, you know? Of course, the only person who can end this war is Putin by withdrawing. Of course, nobody talks about that. Because Putin just gets to be like a force of nature who acts amorally, and then everyone else just gets to behave well or poorly in the face of the hurricane that is his, his military.
No negotiations. Would that open the way to negotiations? Diplomacy? Can't be sure. There's only one way to find out. That's to try. If you don't try, of course it won't happen. If I may, I'd like to add a word about something.
It's incoherent. We don't set the terms of the negotiation. We don't.
It was touched on, but not developed sufficiently, in my view, and it's highly significant. China. What's happening with regard to China? It's barely being reported, but it's of supreme significance. There has been an agreement that's held for 50 years. It's called the One China policy.
Okay, I don't know if I want to listen to his old ass spend 8 minutes explaining how actually we should let Taiwan get invaded or something. Yeah, I saw, Squirrel blocked me, so I don't see the tweets from Squirrel, but, you know, the Squirrel's been, like, pretty much pro-Russia for a while now.
The Russians are not going to roll over and play dead. In fact, what the Russians are going to do is they're going to crush the Ukrainians.
Boom.
They're going to bring out the big guns. They're going to turn places like Kiev and other cities in Ukraine into rubble.
Why is the Squirrel posting this 13 hours ago as though this is what happened? Their armored advance on Kiev got knocked back in days, and they've been losing territory every day for weeks. Like they're like every possible thing that could have gone wrong for Russia has gone wrong for Russia. I don't know why you would post this now and go like, listen to how right he was. She's glad Kiev was bombed. Well, of course, because they want to rape and kill Ukraine. Yes, that's it. That's it. It's you can stop the thought process there. Yeah, I know. Down the thread, she says like basically, she does the same thing that like Nazis do, where they're like, we didn't want to do this, but now that you've pushed us too far with like Mr. Potato Head, non-binary, blue hair, Steven Universe, now you're gonna die, and it'll be your fault. Yeah, it looks like we have to genocide you, basically. Can't believe she's fucking praising Mearsheimer. Yeah, the idea of a leftist praising Mearsheimer, like, under any context is kind of laughable. But again, like, leftism is a secondary principle to these people, to being anti-American. If you're anti-American to these people, you're on the right side. And much as people engaging in a holy war, every horrendous act you do against the bad side to them is, like, good for your side. You know what I mean? It's like Crusader logic, right? Like, to the Crusader, like, there's something, like, epistemically valuable about inflicting harm to infidels because, like, they're on the other side. Like, it goes beyond just, you know, what's good for this region or what goals am I trying to achieve. It's like a holy war. And to them, it's a holy war against the United States. So when they're, like, either not concerned with or blatantly gloating about just unambiguous anti-civilian attacks by Russia, it's because, like, it's a holy war, you know? That's what they feel about it. Yeah. It's pretty weird. Pretty wacky. Pretty wacky. Gar21 Gecko 12. I don't know if I can promise to answer questions one-on-one much. It's got a lot of stuff. I know you're a libertarian socialist, but I wonder what your specific political ideology is. That's it. Don't weigh yourself down too much with specific political ideologies. Think of thought processes. Like, don't focus so much on the end goal of what you want to build. Think about the systems that you use to analyze and improve the world around you. And you can usually, I think that's a lot better, because you can usually arrive at more reliable conclusions that way, and it makes it easier to find common ground with people that you don't share the same, like, label with, right? So here's a good example, right? A lot of leftists hate liberals, even on the points liberals are correct on. Issues like democracy or egalitarianism. Not to say liberals always, you know, nail it out of the park when it comes to these issues, but conceptually they are liberal ideology, you know, it's a liberal ideology. But this is something that leftists should ostensibly agree with, you know? But if the process is something that you focus on, like, well, why are you a socialist? Well, because I want, you know, equality and freedom for all. Well, then egalitarianism is necessarily a part of that ideology. And that can help you out, you know? Libertarian socialists oppose a state after a socialist revolution. You do. You're not a libertarian socialist, but a democratic socialist. No, you're incorrect. Being a libertarian socialist does not mean that you're anti-state, but I am anti-state. I just don't think that you can immediately have a state after the revolution, or immediately not have a state after the revolution. But this is what I mean by labels. Like don't get how much time and manpower has been wasted on leftists arguing with one another on, like, what specific label they attract. Like, God, there are so many labels. Liberals don't do this shit. Frankly, the fascists don't either. Fascist, like, label jerk-offing is when they invent 78 terms that mean Nazi and jump between them so that the media doesn't catch on to what ideology they're pushing. But they don't go like, oh, yeah, well, actually, I'm like a evolist Mussoliniist with, you know, Hitlerite tendencies or whatever. They just talk about how they hate black people, you know? Which is more politically effective on their part by far. Way more so. That's why I just call myself libertarian socialist. Avoids arguments that don't need to be had. Mass graves, rape, castration, forced conscription, constant terror. Is there anything these scumfucks won't excuse? No, there isn't. There isn't. Again, like Putin could come out with, like, a public address basically saying, like, Ukrainians aren't people, like, rape whoever you can, whatever. Like, and they would still defend that, or they would, like, whataboutism it. They would, there's no point where they'll ever go, like, oh, I was on the wrong side. Wait, this is actually really bad, and then move over. They won't. They won't do that. It's just not something they can do, really, because it's a holy war, you know? You don't change sides in a holy war because your side has done some stuff that you would otherwise disagree with. It's a holy war.